Hello, you! Welcome to Badgerpod Nerdcast 29, Master of Muppets. Your regular host, Brian, is busy with real life stuff this week. So good luck with life, Brian. With the life of Brian. Oh, we could have talked about life of Brian!
No, Brian is dead to
opportunity for
Brian,
the ironic topic choice.
Brian no longer exists. Listen to me. Brian no longer exists. He is dead to us.
Life of Brian's a good film, isn't it? Hey,
he's not dead to us. He just has finals. Jesus.
Dead. He is dead. He is dead to us.
Father Jesus is Brian.
Okay.
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
so,
because Brian is a satirical farce about Jesus.
So you're just
There's a connection.
Otter, you need to pretend that you're Latin.
Okay, I'm so Latin, I dance to the music.
Okay.
That
That's okay. This just gets really.
It's at this point I introduced the panel, but we've pretty much started already. Otter Jesus, introduce yourself. Say some wonderful things about how wonderful you are, Otter Jesus.
Hey, Lamel, that's what I am here for. The A-Lamels and the hugs. That's
The AMLs. I just want it clarified before I know what I'm getting into, so I know what I'm getting into.
A-Lamel is the thing that people do with the aliens. I've been doing it wrong with my daughters.
Oh, okay. Now I'm even more lost.
Yeah, I am Otter Jesus, and I like the comic books and the video games, and I'm autistic, and yeah. Okay.
All right then, and then she's also interested in doing unspecified things to us that are now so far unspecified. So we can look forward to that.
So I think do we keep plowing on with the introductions?
I'll go ahead. My name is Allison Tiemann. Honey Badger Radio is my brainchild. I do a webcomic because I guess I'm also slightly geeky, but it's a science fiction adult webcomic named Xenospora. You can find it at xenospora.com. I don't have anything humorous to say, so I'll just throw it back to Not Brian. Take it away, Not Brian.
There are two Not Brians here. Hey, Not
Yeah,
Brian
well,
2.
technically,
I'm also not Brian.
And I'm also Not Brian, so they're technically four Not
I'm
Brian.
Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Yes, we're all different.
Go.
I'm not.
Shut up. Biggest stickus.
All right. This is too much shenanigans. Introduce yourself, Rachel.
Okay. I'm Rachel Edwards. I'm one of the hosts of Honey Badger Radio. I'm also a massive dork, and I run a blog on Tumblr in the belly of the beast. Just shit posting, having fun. It's and you can probably find a link to that below in the show and the description. And so I'm gonna do the thing and then just send it back to our Not Brian, Dr. Invercam.
The official Not Brian.
Yes. the Not Brian Atrix, or whatever it is this week. So we're talking about Muppets, and not the TV ones. It's none of the cheap ass spell efforts. The big screen Muppets, all the plastic and stuff. I've got an intro blurb, so I'll read that.
Plus also the CGI, whatever the heck was in Mirrormask, if anybody can
The
discern
acid
it.
troop, the acid troop that is Mirrormask, because that's really what it is.
Yeah, basically. Even the thing is, okay, I won't talk about Mirrormask because our Not Brian overlord has not said whether or not we can not talking about not. Okay, I've just confused myself. Go ahead, Not Brian.
Okay, so the evolution of fantasy has taken many a turn since a prehistoric jester put a vole on a stick and pretended it was talking. Maybe animatronics will be remembered as the blink of an eye between centuries of human theatre and millennia of digital mastery. Will there ever be another Jim Henson? Have we passed the golden age of real-life 3D cartoons? Or is this just the beginning? That was a short... Would anyone like to throw a shoe in before I start talking about the Dark Crystal?
There will never be another Jim Henson, in my opinion. I mean, we're going to have some cool people showing up, and I definitely think that that's something that we're going to see pretty soon. I've seen evidence of that, but I don't think we'll ever have Jim back again. And it's not easy being green.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't actually realize that was a real song until I saw I guess the sort of music video that they did of it, which was interesting. So it was a song parody. I assume the original meant jealousy rather than literally being a frog. So
No, it literally meant being the color green. That wasn't a parody. That was a song. That was a song that Kermit the Frog was known for singing.
yeah, but I thought it was originally a song by somebody else.
Nope. I don't
Okay,
think so.
all right, I will concede to your greater knowledge and shuffle off.
So yeah, there probably won't be another Jim Henson, if only because of how history aligns with technology. For the same reason, there probably won't be another Beatles, because they were around when recording studios were being basically invented. It's one of those unfortunate things about history. Should we start with the Dark Crystal? Unless anyone wants to say
Oh
something
my
else?
god, Dark Crystal.
I thought we'd do it in chronological order.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that I would like to bring up real quick is, again, the movies that we're discussing right now are actually, the pinnacle of Jim Henson's work. These were the projects that he had envisioned himself that he really wanted to make. And he spent many years working on them from start to finish, with the exception of Mirrormask, which was done after his death. That they were trying to mimic the success of those two, but you really can't, because he poured his blood, sweat, and tears into those. That's just not something that's easily replicated. Yeah.
Indeed. Shall I do my thing?
Just go for it. Go for it. Not
All right.
Brian.
In entertainment, there are two ways you can reach that sweet spot at which your work is just as entertaining for adults as it is for children. One way is to start with adult content and then dumb it down for the kids. This doesn't usually work, but I'm giving it a go. The other way is to start with children's content and then make it super dark. Dark to a child is not the same as dark to an adult. Dark to a child is the equivalent of epic to an adult. So when Jim Henson goes super dark, you cannot possibly go wrong. The Dark Crystal was Jim Henson doing for puppets what Roald Dahl did for books, and what Invader Zim did for cartoons. Yes, folks, one day we'll talk about Invader Zim. One day, soon. So, because it's a children's movie, the Dark Crystal doesn't have to muck about slowly establishing a three-dimensional balance of morality. In the opening exposition, we're told in no uncertain terms, these are the Skeksis. They are complete assholes, and they are in charge of the Dark Crystal and the world. These are the Mystics. They are nice. Are we all aboard now? Wicked. Let's get down to the business of making madness come to life with puppets. And such is the case with any Jim Henson universe. Any dialogue is frankly a bonus. The characters could all be speaking in an extinct Polynesian Creole and you'd hardly notice, because you're so hypnotized by the menagerie of adorably disgusting alien things. The Skeksis, for those who haven't seen them, are these craggy, beady-eyed sort of reptilian desert birds who walk upright wearing rape robes, basically. If they were 6 feet tall, they'd be terrifying, but if they were 4 feet tall, they'd be cute. Which just goes to show you can be terrifying and cute at the same time. But you all probably knew that already. Then there's Jen, our protagonist. He's a harmless, clueless, hyper-neotenous little gelfling boy who never did shit to anyone, but the Mystics decide it's his job to fix their 1,000-year family feud with the Skeksis, risking his life and saving the world in the process. The Mystics are nice, remember? So, Jen's the last of his kind. He's wandering across the planet alone, looking for a small crystal to put in a big crystal in the heart of a fortress of doom, and he's got scores of giant armored crabs hunting him down. And you can't help but think, okay, wouldn't exactly say I can relate to this, but I'd quite like to see how it pans out. Which is sort of a unique feature of children's entertainment, and one you might say has been lost a little of late. Children aren't supposed to relate to things. You can't expect them to, they're children. So you might as well give them the craziest, most impossible scenarios you can think of. Maybe all genres could benefit from a little less pandering to what the audience thinks they can relate to, a little bit more reaching for what they can't. But that's another story for another for every Nerdcast. Go think of it. So, to compound Jen's already glacier-sized sense of inadequacy, he meets the only other Gelfling alive, and she is the Mary Sueest Mary Sue in the history of Mary Soup. Her name's Kira. She knows everything about nature. She commands the will of every animal, and icing on the cake, unlike male Gelflings, she has wings. So there's that. And now they're getting hounded by a rogue Skeksis. They're still getting chased by the crabs. Yeah, do not watch this movie if you have a phobia of crustaceans. Giant, armored, or otherwise. I swear, every 10 minutes those things come tearing through the walls like the Kool-Aid Man. It's genuinely petrifying. So there's some spooky forest malarkey, some sort of wacky laboratory shenanigans. Jen goes under, Kira goes over. There's a solar alignment, the mystics turn up. It's all very convergent and all rather dramatic. And it's thoroughly aesthetically stimulating. And from a time when thoroughly aesthetically stimulating was not just difficult to produce, but materially expensive. I won't tell you Jim Henson made it look easy, because he didn't. He made it look awesome. That's not quite the same thing. Le discuss.
Okay, I assume that means
Yeah.
we slid to a stop, folks. I would say that it is a little bit dated in terms of its puppetry, but it's got that charm. There's certain shows that have just enough special effects for their story, but no more. Like Blade Runner still feels almost modern because they didn't go overboard. They just used enough to tell a story.
You can totally tell they're puppets. You're never under any illusion that they're not puppets, but you don't really care because it's live action. Because the novelty of live action special effects is enough to suspend your disbelief. So
also, it's the only entirely puppet film that they've ever done, if you think about it, because there's always been like some human or something showing up in all the other ones. But there's not a moment where there is a single human on the screen breaking, that sort of reality of what's supposed to be taking place here.
Yeah, that's true.
That's an interesting thing. Also, I mean, we forgot to mention, like, oh, by the way, the Skeksis are, like, sucking the fucking souls out of these other little creatures. It's fucking horrifying. I mean, I remember, I think, being younger and seeing this shit, and I was like, what in the fuck is going on? Well, certainly I didn't say fuck because I was, like, 5, but Jesus Christ, it
was pretty intense.
Yeah, they're just these soulless husks being left behind. Holy crap. I can't even remember why they were draining them of their life fluids or whatever.
Because they wanted to look younger.
Yeah, that was it. Okay, yeah, they were draining them.
And also because they were creepy. They were very creepy.
Trust a Skeksis. Oh, also,
Gelfling.
God, you fucking made that noise all the time. You're like...
That was the Chamberlain, actually. It wasn't all of them.
Yeah, I know. It was that one guy, though. I mean, wasn't that like Frank Oz? I mean, he had to know what he was doing. He was like,
He was the old lady who,
he did that too. Yeah, but there's something about like how
probably did some other minor voices.
He was
people
awkward
do
as well,
their voices.
Oh, I actually wanted to address and maybe introduce some conflict. Mike's point about Kira being a Mary Sue. She did suffer quite a bit throughout she was the Gelfling that ended up getting some of the life sucked out of her, and she also got stabbed. So I mean, she did at least. Comparably, Jen got off quite a bit lighter. So I don't recall anything in particular happening to him. I think he was knocked unconscious by rocks. I don't know if it's a universe where getting head injury matters, or if it's just like supposedly a very non-violent way of just knocking someone out of the plot for a while. I'm not sure, but yeah, in a lot of ways she suffered quite a bit.
One of the qualifications for a Mary Sue? I thought they were just good at things, Harm can befall them, surely.
Yeah, they don't have as many flaws or whatever. But then,
they don't suffer for what they get.
Well,
Mary Sue is a character that doesn't feel real. Basically, if you think about it, they don't feel like they're part of the world. They feel like they're above the world, and it feels like the world kind of revolves around them a lot of the time.
Well,
Yeah.
they were both really, really fucking naive.
Yeah, they both were.
And there was like that
the-
weird Deus Ex Machina fucking version of exposition, like the dream fasting shit.
Yeah, that was a bit. But what I wanted to say is, I think that there is a qualification, because if a character is really good at something, or good at a lot of things, if they suffer, I don't know if they qualify as much as a Mary Sue, because if they suffer to get what they want, that's what you enjoy about a character, and that's what makes them real. And it, like, it's a realistic suffering that leaves you less attractive, not more, which is often what kind of suffering that Mary Sue's get.
It's more to do with their characteristics and their strengths rather than their fate and their consequences. I mean, you can tell what they were doing with, because Jen was raised by the mystic, so he could read and he could do all that stuff, and he was able to read that thing in the prophecy thing, whereas Kira knows all the foresty, spiritually stuff. So that was the dynamic they had going on. But Jen's speciality almost never came up in the movie. So and Kira's did all the bloody time.
Yeah, but if you turn that around, you see that with male characters all the time. So you'd have to actually say that a lot of male characters are Mary Sues, or Marty Stews, rather. So what's the difference? I mean, 'cause lots of male characters have plenty of multiple competencies, and their competencies come into play in the plot a lot more than, for example, the female characters in the story. So if you use that metric, then I think that's too wide a net. It has to be tightened a little. And I'm not saying that Kira isn't a Mary Sue.
The wings thing
Or
just
Mary
Yes,
Sue.
yes,
Yeah,
that
the wings
is Mary
thing.
Sue. That is
She's like,
something
I
that
got
could
wings.
definitely push it over into Mary Sue
I
territory.
thought it was Gary Stu or Gary Sue, like was the
Marty
male
Stu,
equivalent.
yeah, the male. But that's what I'm saying. If you want to make a definition of Mary Sue, you have to make it so that it actually applies to these characters, not a whole bunch of other characters that are perfectly legitimate. Because you have hyper competent. I mean, maybe they're Marty Stews too, right? And their competency plays more into the plot than anybody else's.
I think the wings thing was kind of
Yes,
I mean,
the wings thing came out of buttfuck nowhere.
It's probably really to do with probably a stylistic choice from Brian Froud or something like that, because
Plus,
he
they
was
couldn't
the
have
one.
possibly carried the weight.
Here's
yeah,
possibly why they did that. They might have went, okay, we need the characters to get from someplace or whatever. I can't even remember when this happened, honestly. But they might have been, we ran out of money. We need to get this done. We need to get this part moving, so let's just add this in. And it might have just been like a cheat.
Yeah, that's a good excuse for Friday night on a Family Guy, right? But not on a blockbuster.
Well,
movie.
yeah, this was really an ambitious project, and they might have just done that. So there's that aspect too.
And yeah, you get to the point where sometimes you're running out of money or something like that. But I don't know. I don't think that was the case. I think it was probably, like I said, a stylistic choice by Brian Froud, because you look at all of his other artwork and everything else up to this point, and it's very much about fairies and those kinds of things, that aesthetic. And he, if I recall, did the concept art for both Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. And so the idea that, let's just add some wings is really not too much of a stretch in terms of a stylistic choice by Brian
Yeah, but
Froud.
where? It's where they were added. In the plot, the story, okay, she has these abilities, they're well established, and then suddenly she just comes out with this random one. And, I mean, if there had been some build-up, if there had been some illusion, maybe there was.
Technically there's this is just like sort of sexual dimorphism, but I don't know.
Yeah, I never really bought into that either. Like, I read the supplementary material, and they said that the Gelfling goes on some sort of sex flight. To do what? I don't know.
Sex play, yeah.
I mean, if the
remember
males
that.
don't have wings, you're just doing it on your own, right?
So they can fly then. So why did
Yes,
Jen
they can fly.
at some point go, bitch, we've been walking for miles. You could have just picked me up and flown me over here.
That's what could qualify as a Mary Sue, because she has this ability and she doesn't use it to make the other characters' lives
If we're gonna
easier.
bring that up, we might as
Let's
If
talk
we're
about the
gonna bring
evils
this
of
up-
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. See, fucking Otter understands where I was about to go with this. I mean, like, oh, by the way, you know some big, gigantic fucking birds? Why didn't we fly those bitches all the way to goddamn Mordor?
The eagles in Lord of the Rings are
Why
Mary
was
Sue.
why was it like 3 books of fucking walking when we could have flown on the backs of hawks?
Well, then does that make Gandalf a Mary Sue?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually immortal. He's actually immortal.
Yeah, he's actually fucking immortal. I mean, if you think about it, I think I remember them saying, in terms of character creation, Gandalf is sort of almost like an angel kind of creature thing, and like the elves are, I can't remember, but I don't know. I can't remember.
wizards are
And
basically
dwarves are
angels.
Okay,
basically.
well, let's not
Yeah.
get too far off field
Yes.
with
Yeah.
that.
Sorry.
And the Lord of... Keep saying sorry, Rachel.
Sorry.
Yes, just keep chanting it like a mantra.
You want me to say it slowly?
Yes.
No, you can keep bursting it out like a machine gun. Yeah, no.
Ooh, this is interesting. The Marvel Comics adaptation of the movie states that in the past, females could fly, but the wings have become vestigial.
Yeah.
So she can only glide.
Yeah, that makes it more confusing.
While carrying
does.
an extra body. That's some good
But it was
gliding.
Marvel Comics, so who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure that works.
Her gliding was not very believable.
Yeah, when they were filming the movie and they had that scene, they're like, "Wait, hold on, let's figure out this. Are people going to be talking about this someday?" Going, I think they were really worried about that. No, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's weird though, but that's just kind of a plot device, really.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
about the character and who she is.
Okay.
Any other things that we want to bring up about Dark Crystal? Like, I don't know. Shit. I don't know. I keep thinking about the what do you call it? The mystics being very hippie looking, if I recall. Just really.
Well, yeah, because they were like good. And
Just-
hippie is good.
Although
yeah.
Mike did point out that they sort of fucked Jen over.
Yeah, they really did. They're like, oh, by the way, we're gonna need you to just go fix shit after we've like raised you all this time, just left you in the dark
then again-
about all this other stuff.
Then again, maybe that's the point. They
Mhm.
couldn't, because they didn't have the drive that was represented by their Skeksis selves.
Yeah.
It was all prophesized, apparently.
Yeah, there was the duality thing that we're probably going to talk about later, repeated
But it didn't
in
seem like
Mirrormask.
It didn't seem like the Mystics were really capable of taking any deeply proactive action aside from, I don't know, at the end, humping their other selves, whatever they did, to join,
Well,
diffuse.
it's kind of like
You're
the
never going to say humping. Well, you know, we did take a crystal shard and then shove it into a hole, but...
Maybe that's what it was all symbolizing. Some sort of massive
But maybe if we
psychic
get...
origin. Or
Maybe
some-
if we get the left and the right to just fuck each other, everything will get...
this is really stupid even for us, I think.
I'm sorry. It's just if you think about it. I mean,
No,
on the
I
one
think you
hand, you
nailed it.
have the aristocracy, like these aristocracy motherfuckers who are just obsessed with money, and then on the other hand, you have these very
Obsessed
monk-like
with eternal
characters.
youth, by the way.
Yeah, obsessed with eternal youth, and on the other hand, you have these very hippie-like creatures who don't seem to have any kind of love of worldly possessions or anything like that, and yeah, like I said, very, very hippie, like the idea of like possessions, like not really attached to a lot of things. So they both represent two different extremes. And
Yeah, but okay, so how does this apply to the humping at the end?
if you think about it, like I said, maybe the left and the right need to just fuck each other.
I know I'm being crude. I know they probably just hugged in some sort of ecstatic spiritual.
It was weird looking, but yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, no, I'm just, I'm kidding. But yeah,
Fuse with me. Take
maybe-
me into your body.
maybe okay.
We shall
Generally,
become one.
we're talking about these sort of, oh god, these I don't know, interdimensional being things that are above, I don't know, that transcend everything or whatever. And basically, when they come together, God, that sounds wrong. When they merge, they find balance finally.
It's sort of slightly analogous to our gender issues, isn't it? Hey, we got it there, sort of.
No,
There's been a schism
I think
among
you're
gender
stretching.
for like 2,000 years.
I have an interesting idea though. Would people have a lot more people have looked weirdly on the idea of them just sending the male character Jen off if he was actually a female character? Would that have been like, no, let's not do that?
Yeah, I think
'Cause-
probably they would have questioned it more.
Yeah.
Well, it was his responsibility, because it sort of came down on him and Kira. But,
Well, I did think he was the last of the Gelflings. I had no idea that there was another one left.
Yeah.
It's kind of glad that they didn't make a sequel to this after all, because then I'd have to explain like the generations of inbreeding.
Well, they did make a manga prequel.
Yeah, but like I said, prequel's different than sequel, because sequel is going to imply.
I read part of that. It is incomprehensible, and it not really a manga, I don't think. I think it's a Western animation, or a Western comics, and it's not incomprehensible, but it does one of those things that's sort of annoying with comics. You can't understand the story without reading it. And you should be able to, in the medium of comics, you should be able to get some of the gist of what's going on without having to read the dialogue. And it's it's basically just an illustrated, and it's not a bad thing, but it's not really a comic or a manga, it's more like an illustrated story.
And don't even get me started on Return to Labyrinth, because that was a clusterfuck.
Well, Jim Henson Company did like a weird deal with Tokyo Pop, and had like Americans make it, so I don't know.
Yeah, that was, like
it was
I said,
probably based on ideas that they had for the prequel that they wanted to eventually make, because I don't think they ever really intended to make a sequel per se.
Yeah, like I said before, though, don't even get me started on Return to Labyrinth. I went in thinking, it can't really be all that bad. Oh, it is the worst piece of shit.
Okay,
I've
let's
ever
wait for
seen.
Labyrinth first, though. Let's wait for
Okay.
Labyrinth.
Sorry.
Do you shall we move off the Dark Crystal
Why not? Yeah.
and off the trans-dimensional alien hump fusing?
That's the best part.
And the simulated crystal sex.
Well, if we're moving on to Labyrinth, I don't think we're quite moving off that topic, are we?
No, but we could insert Mirrormask in between those two.
Possibly.
No. Yeah.
Like I said, chronological order would make sense. Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll do Labyrinth.
Okay.
I was just like wanting the idea of inserting, something in between something.
Yes, I believe I'm with you.
Yes, we're both on the same page.
And
Both on
travel
the
through
same
a labyrinth to get at a tower in the center isn't implying anything. Or castle in the center, just.
Yes. Okay. Let's do Labyrinth.
All right.
You have to reach my tower at the center of the labyrinth.
Oh no.
I stole that one from you, Rachel. Okay.
I know.
Shall I proceed? All right. I've met few people who don't love this movie. We have some critical eyes to pass over it. It's not short on things to ridicule. Mostly David Bowie. But one thing nobody in their right mind could accuse Labyrinth of is being forgettable. Labyrinth is that abstract nightmare you used to have when you were a child. That synesthetic bugbear that stays with you. When you're on your deathbed and your brain is reduced to an atrophied mush, the last three things left in your memory will be your first name your first orgasm, and Labyrinth. Prove me wrong. So, when doing a little bit of light research for the show, I was surprised to discover Labyrinth was something of a box office disaster. It made less than $13 million, and it cost more than $25 million to make. As much as we in the aftermath seem to love this film, considerably more than we seem to love The Dark Crystal, the cinema goers at the time were not impressed. Your guess is as good as mine as to why that might be, but I think it might be because they put humans in it. Maybe once the audience got used to seeing nothing but Muppets, they were somewhat nonplussed at the idea of throwing in a teenage girl and a rock star. When you say it like that, it does sort of sound like a cash grab. Was David Bowie really who you had in mind for the Goblin King? Guys, why would an elf be the king of the goblins? Plus, the Labyrinth had songs. Not everybody likes songs in their films. Anyway, Labyrinth is the story of a teenager named Sarah, who, upon having to babysit her toddler brother one too many times, experiences a fit of hysterical selfishness, which quickly becomes an elaborate psychedelic hallucination. Her toys and books become antagonistic players in an endless animatronic hell of her own creation. Already you're seeing why it's such a memorable film. You already understand that premise. You already appreciate that series of events. It's someone getting royally and deservedly bitch-slapped by their own imagination. A child of almost any age could understand that premise, because that's basically what happens every time you fall asleep. So there's not much else to say about the plot, really. From there on in, it's apparatus of set pieces, showcasing whatever bestiary of unholy Dr. Moreau creations Jim Henson and Brian Froud could come up with, including Ludo, who I think is a Highland cow spliced with an orangutan, Sedidimus, who presumably is a spaniel of some sort spliced with a springbok, and Hoggle, who I think is just Irish. Like, really Irish.
Hey!
Well, I'm Irish, it's fine. It's fine.
Hey.
Together they negotiate the various traps and puzzles of the labyrinth, and eventually Sarah makes it to the castle beyond the Goblin City, and so on and so forth. And David Bowie does his thing again. It's quite a feat of cinematography, actually. They managed to create a dramatic climax without any violence taking place. It's a social justice warrior's wet dream, in a way. A girl saves a boy from a bad man by running around an impossible staircase for several minutes. Someone should make a video game like that, eh? Except it does look a little bit rapey to the trained eye. Until it comes to the moral of the story. The last line of the soliloquy. All the running, the panicking, the heeing and the hawing, it does all mean something if you can come to learn how much power there is in simply saying you have no power over me. You will be amazed how many of your most epic problems would have never happened in the first place if you had only learned to simply say you have no power over me. That's how you cure this rape culture of yours. That's how you cure this patriarchy of yours. It's how you cure this oppression of yours. So why? My dear social justice friends, when this film is so fondly branded into your memory, why, when this lesson has its own indomitable throne in your thoughts, why can you never remember that line?
I assume that's your cue to allow us to discuss this.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Because I have lots to say about what you said there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. And
Go
I'm
on,
going
go
to
on,
right now.
Go on, Allison.
I will. Okay. Yes. The entire premise of this film, as far as I can tell, is this girl is doing all of this to herself. She is constructing this entire reality, or rather, this. I actually think that this is Jungian. I know groaning, but this represents the dark, almost like the dark masculine archetype in her. That she is abdicating responsibility onto the Goblin King, and in turn, he's doing everything that's expected of him to become to take the responsibility, the blame for her own decisions. And that final line, "You have no power over me," is her actually claiming back responsibility for her own stupid decisions, which is when she solves them, essentially. So I actually totally agree with you there, Mike. I think you have solved the problem of the labyrinth.
We've
The
we've
problem
solved
of
it
the
together, Alison. We got there in the end.
Yeah, the problem of the labyrinth is abdicating self-responsibility onto another party. In this case, it's a girl abdicating responsibility for her own choices, the bad results of her own choices, onto a man, and he's perfectly willing to play that role as long as she maintains the fiction that he actually has power over her. As long as she, at the end of the day, says, "Oh yes, there is a patriarchy, and the patriarchy controls all of my actions," this man will be the bad guy and the good guy and whatever guy she wants, as long as he feels like he has power, which he doesn't. And it's like the ultimate white knight statement. Let me rule you, and I will be your slave. Just pretend that I have power. I have the power to do anything, do anything in your life. Just pretend that I have the power I have the power over you, over your life, and I will do everything you want. That's the perfect white knight credo. Just be my slave, and just submit to me, and I'll be your slave. And the way you banish these guys is you say, well, you just don't have any power over me. Sorry. I'm not even going to say sorry.
Oh,
Bye. Okay. Anyway, go ahead, Rachel. I know I've been...
Oh God, there's so much going on here, and I've had many years to think about this entire movie, because I remember the first time I watched this I was about 6 years old. But the thing about this is that, from the very beginning of the film, you see Sarah. She's wrapped herself up in this big, this persona of fantasy. She lives in a fantasy world. She's very much still a child. Despite the fact that she's on the cusp of womanhood, and you can see that in her. There's many parts of her that seem to want to be a little bit more grown up, but at the same time she really just kind of hides. She hides in all of this stuff. Probably a good portion of it is probably tied to the fact that she lost her mother, and she's not too happy about the new situation with her stepmother coming in and them having a new child, and so she resents her younger brother, and she's like, oh, I wish you would go away. You the symbol of the new union between my stepmother and my father. And so she gets sucked into her own imagination, the world that her imagination has created, and I think it says a great deal about the fact that the person inside of her mind is a man with a gigantic codpiece. Just like it's always up in like Hoggle's face and stuff like that. That might as well just be a character on its own. It's just everywhere, at every shot. I mean, did you really need to put him in pants that tight? Really? But anyway, moving along, there's a lot of stuff going on.
I so wanted to mention David Bowie's understudy, but I knew Rachel would, so I left it alone.
I mean, like I said, there's so much there, going into that. I mean, it should say something that David Bowie, of anything else, of any other thing, that is who is the guy that she dreams of. That doesn't it make sense that it's like every teenager's like wet dream at the time? It's like, oh my God, David Bowie.
I don't recall that.
I
think maybe. Okay, when did Labyrinth come out again?
Okay, never mind. It was like
86.
Back
okay. I was only 9, so I can't comment on whether or not.
But basically, really, you had to wonder. I mean, was that really the best choice? I mean, could you not have covered up? But I mean, that's just an interesting thought. But Sarah is very much drawn into this situation, and she feels like she's been drawn into it. It's only till the end that she starts taking charge of the situation. And I also can't stop thinking about the ballrooms. I remember I've watched so many different things talking about the making of Labyrinth, talking about how they got there, the choice, how they came to David Bowie. They always had this idea of sort of a rock star kind of character in that position, which leads me to feel that this is exactly what they were going for. They really were going for the sort of teen heartthrob kind of that girls just gush all over, and it's sort of this idea that, again, she's on the cusp of womanhood, and there's that ballroom sequence. He's very much trying to woo her with the promise of some kind of maturity in this realm of fantasy. It's that ballroom scene is sort of this representation of her being still very young and entering into the scene where a whole bunch of things are going on that she doesn't quite understand, and that she's probably too young to understand. And he just keeps giving her promises of all of these different things. But I don't know where I'm really going with this, but I don't know why they decided to put him in fur towards the end. Why am I thinking about his costume right now?
Oh, for obvious reasons, I think.
Owls,
2 or 3
man.
very obvious reasons.
Fucking owls, I tell you.
Yeah, fucking owls. I don't understand. What's going on
with the owls? No, I mean, I think it's... What he was representing was sort of a seductive concept of just projecting your agency out. And it's a childish way of looking at the world. At the same time, I guess there was a sort of an... I don't know if that ballroom actually represents an adult world, or a childish view of an adult world.
Actually, that's exactly what they said it was in when Jim Henson and all these people were describing what they were trying to do in that specific scene, is they were very much trying to give that feeling of what it's like to perceive that sort of thing from a young person's perspective. That there's a whole bunch of things going on that can be very scary, but also alluring at the same time. But yeah.
I have an alternate reading of the movie.
Huh?
So it's all about female entitlement. She says she's having to babysit this kid, but she's like, no, I want a man. So she goes out and leaves the kid there with the oven on, and the open, and there's gas everywhere, and then she has to come back because she realizes how horrible she is.
I think
where did the oven come in?
Is that what caused the hallucination? Is that what...
The ticking time bomb.
Wait, but I don't recall the oven. Like, is this something I missed?
This is just it.
All of this was like what was really going on, but then she eventually realized that she had to go back to the house to save the kid. But the gas was still in there, and so it made her hallucinate about all the animals in her room, or all the characters in her room at the end.
Oh, okay. So this is just some sort of bizarre
that's just his headcanon
going on.
That's just his headcanon.
There was no way of raising why she needed to go out and hang out with this sexy man. And
I think it's it's quite telling. Oh, the thing is, I think it's quite telling. I mean, if you really wanted to talk about this being about female entitlement and about living in a fantasy land, what does it say that at the end it's like, oh, well, we'll be here should you need us. Like, if you need to, like, plunge yourself into escapism some other time, we'll be here. Like, maybe not Jareth, though, like, but I'm sure he'll show up for your wank.
Oh, Jareth was great. He was all fun and giggles.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but then we have to ask, what did these goblins, the little
Things.
fox knight thing and Hoggle and Udo, what did they represent?
I don't know.
As architects.
Maybe they represented, I don't know.
Well, okay.
Well,
it's just
is a knight.
Feel like a victim in all of it, when really it's just her being an asshole.
Hoggle is kind of an anti-hero sort of character that is like rather tsundere, and and Ludo is like just the kind of person who seems like bad on the outside but is good on the inside. Actually, that seems to be an ongoing theme. Like,
okay, but here's something from the chat. Mr. Prickly, every time Sarah demands special treatment and fairness, Jared throws up one more obstacle. Now, and I would disagree with Otter Jesus that this is really about female. I mean, it might be about female entitlement.
It started out that way, but it was a way to prove to her that it wasn't in the end. That
yeah,
she
but
wasn't entitled.
It was like overcoming female entitlement.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Between Jen and Sarah, as Jen goes through his world, sort of going, oh, okay, oh shit, I guess I better do this now. All right. whereas Sarah goes through her world going, "This isn't fair." So the whole moral's sort of different.
You kept like they keep.
But what I wanted to point out from the statement from the chat is it's more than every time Sarah demands special treatment and fairness, because what Sarah is actually doing when she demands special treatment and fairness is she is exteriorizing her experience. Like she's saying what I'm experiencing now is the responsibility of someone else to improve, not me. Not my responsibility to take responsibility for my choices and deal with them and change them and deal with the consequences. That somebody else has to do this for me. In the process of saying somebody else do this for me, she's actually giving them the perception that they have power over her, which is where I think Jareth swept in that particular flaw that the female character was leaving open. He exploited that, or he slept in on that flaw, even though he might actually be a representation of her own psyche. But anyway, I think that there will, if a woman is willing to say, make it fair, it's essentially saying, go slay that dragon for me, and there will always be a white knight that comes up and says, oh, you're giving me power over you. Oh, thank you. I will go do what you want me to do.
Or indeed, she will project it on the nearest animal, even if it happens to be a barn owl who's sat on the windowsill.
Yeah.
So I think he said something like, love me, fear me, and I will be your slave. Basically, don't get in my way, and I'll be your slave. Just don't fucking cross me, and I will.
Well, love me and fear me is and he will in turn do everything to become what she expects of him.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, the choice was between living in her own fantasy forever and never really growing up into the person that she really could be.
Yeah.
Or saving her brother.
Yeah. Well,
and just being an adult.
Just to bring it back to my question, what do you guys think that the Sir Didymus? Well, no, that wasn't what was the fox thing that was the knight? What was his name?
That is Sir Didymus.
Sir Didymus, Udo, and Hoggle. What do they represent as character principles?
I don't know.
Well, Hoggle has his own sort of unique arc, and he's sort of a more considerable arc than Sarah in a way. He sort of really has to go all the way from the bottom to the top, from the depths of powerlessness and cowardice to the height of, let's call it, bravery. I mean, that's what he calls it.
Yeah, he says that he's a coward, basically.
Yeah, and if anything, Sir Didymus goes through the opposite. He starts off too courageous for his own good and eventually figures out that's not necessarily the best way. And Ludo is he's the rock. So to speak. Does that work for anyone?
He will rock you. Okay.
I guess it represents the power of change through one's own choices. All of them do represent the power of change through one's choices, except for Udo, who doesn't really change. He just remains the same.
Sarah,
or maybe he chooses to remain the same.
And he's the only good person throughout. Like, just to be perfectly honest, he's like the only person or the only creature that's good, just like throughout the story. I mean, I think that the idea is that things aren't always how they appear to be. Like, even the fairies were little assholes. It's like, oh, you bit me. It's like,
the worm was nice. Hey?
Yeah, the worm.
Was good advice. Oh, apart from
I did like the worm. It's like,
worm was cute.
You wouldn't have to know this labyrinth, would you? It's like, nah, just a worm.
Okay, I have a thought, and it might be confusing while I attempt to sort of work it out of my brain into something that gels and makes sense to other people. But it comes again from something that Master Prickly is saying in the chat. By Sarah demanding fairness, she's basically saying she can't do it. Quote, go easy on me, I'm a girl, end quote. And I was thinking about the difference in mentality between expecting somebody to make things fair for you and treating the world as an opportunity to rely on yourself and to see what you're capable of. And I think that our society definitely encourages the latter attitude. Is it the latter? Help me out. Someone British, help me out. Is it latter or former?
I've forgotten which order you said them in already.
Former is the first,
okay.
latter is the second, or whatever.
Okay, so the first attitude is demanding that somebody else create fairness, and the second attitude is accepting whatever obstacles come your way and then relying on yourself to overcome them. I think that our society encourages women to remain in the first attitude and not take on the second attitude. In fact, it doesn't just encourage. I mean, with men, it holds them to the second attitude standard, even to the point of absurdity. With women, it sort of entraps them in the first attitude standard. And I think that's to go back to the war of the sexes, as evidenced by the Skeksis and the Mystics. That may be part of the issue between men and women. But I'm wittering now, so Mike.
Yeah, also, the music is amazing.
Yeah.
You remind me of the Babe.
What babe?
The Babe with the power.
What
power?
The power of voodoo.
Voodoo?
You do.
You do what?
It's a good way to test the lag, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a good way to test the lag.
My favorite part is when they have the baby and it's like, smack that baby and make it pee!
You know what's interesting? Okay, fun fact, you guys. Fun fact. The real baby there was actually named Toby and actually was the child of Brian Froud. And he is actually grown up now and is actually doing his own stuff with puppets and things like that. He's actually working on some projects. I think you can actually even Patreon him. He's already done a short film. I'm trying to remember what it is, but it looked like awesome. It's like Brian Froud and like Jim Henson had a baby, and that was like the best aspects of that. Just because apparently
The baby does have the power.
Yeah, basically, his parents, his mother was, I think, a sculptor kind of thing. I think probably worked also on Labyrinth or one of those films, if I'm not mistaken. So she's actually a puppet fabricator kind of deal, and his father is, of course, an artist, and like I said, the best of both worlds, and in Toby Froud. And so seriously, go check out his shit. It's amazing. Do it. But I mean, that's kind of what happens when you're like a baby and you're in Labyrinth, the fucking film, and your dad is Brian Froud. So
Okay, but do you have the name of the project?
I can't quite recall it right now, but it's just just Google search like Toby Froud and it'll pop up.
Okay, yeah, just a sec. I'm gonna get the. I think it's called Lessons Learned.
Yes, there we go.
Lessons Learned.
Lessons learned. Yes, you can actually buy that short film online. I think it's not that expensive. I haven't purchased it myself, but I'm seriously considering it because it looks awesome.
Well, definitely the. The trailer looks awesome. I think I remember seeing it. I thought when I watched the trailer, I felt it was a little bit confusing, but maybe the full length clears up a lot of that, and it is really the aesthetic is really nice.
Yeah.
So that would be Toby Froud's Lessons Learned. Okay, shall we go to Mirrormask?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess
Who's got some Mirrormask for me?
I do.
Hooray!
Here we go.
Do your thing.
Yeah. At first glance, Mirrormask is a confusing acid trip of a movie. But beyond that, it's an acid trip of a movie speaking on the duality of human nature. It drops you into a nightmarish dream world of freakish creatures and surreal landscapes, dragging you through the complexities of the human mind. Our main protagonist is a 15-year-old girl named Helena, whose family runs a circus. More than anything, she wants to live her own life and have room to make her own decisions. She snaps at her mother, saying that she wishes she were dead, a statement she immediately regrets the moment her mother is found unconscious. Helena is endlessly drawing strange pictures of buildings and people. This escapism continues once her mother is in the hospital and her father's circus is put on hold. Escapism that seemingly devours her as she finds herself in the world she's created through her drawings and her dreams. Helena soon learns that she resembles a missing princess and that a queen who dwells in the kingdom of light is in a coma. The only way to wake the queen and to find the missing princess is to find the Mirrormask along with her companion Valentine. But The story isn't as simple as it seems. Throughout the film is a clear theme of duality, light and dark, good and evil. While Helena is in the world of her imagination, the princess is in her world, acting as her dark doppelganger, rebelling against her father, smoking cigarettes and kissing boys. It is through the actions of her evil twin that she is able to reflect upon her own actions and question who she is as a person. This is also seen in the two queens, who seem to represent the dual aspects of her mother, with the Dark Queen representing Helena's fears about the desires of her mother, and the White Queen representing her idealistic view of her mother. The part of her that she's placed on a pedestal since she has been ill. Faced with this duality, Helena is forced to confront the fact that the world is not black and white, but instead a muddled mix of good and bad. She has the capacity to do both, and that she alone can decide the person that she becomes. In this world of masked people, is a commentary on society. Like the real world, people can put on a facade, hiding their true nature from others and even themselves. Reflecting upon oneself and your actions is the true Mirrormask. Faced with the possible destruction of both of their lives, Helena takes back her life from the princess and finds that in doing so, her mother survives the operation. But it is hinted at, in the end, that it was more than a dream when she finds that Valentine's doppelganger is in the real world. But, yeah, this is a really fucked up movie. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and I know that there's definitely some kind of meaning, but like I said, there's a lot to digest, and there's a lot of really fucked up things taking place. Especially the thing where you have the cats with, like, the human faces and, like, the rainbow wings. I'm like, okay, what the fuck are you trying to say here? Are you just doing this to be artistic, or are you just...
A lot of that was the director and artist, the guy who designed everything, that was part of just his general style.
Well, I understand, I mean, they were going for really insane surrealism, but I think you start to see in some places what they were trying to say. Like, for example, with Valentine, it's very obvious that he is representing sort of a mix of natures, because on the one hand, he seemingly starts to help Helena for the right reasons, but then you realize that he sees the wanted poster for the missing princess and turns her in to get as many jewels as he can carry. But of course he does come back to help her out and help her to remember who she is. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of, he's kind of a representation of that muddied place in between those different ends of the spectrum, that dual nature, that idea of good and evil. And the reality within humans is that it's never as simple as that black and white view of the world that you see when you're a child. It's always shades of gray.
I would say Valentine sort of represents the same thing as Hoggle in the original, in Labyrinth. He originally betrays Helena, but then goes back on what he decided and helps her out. Not sure what that's trying to say. I'm going to throw it out there.
Well, like I said, I said it's probably talking about how people are a lot more complicated than we initially believe when we're young. I think I remember when I was taking a psychology class, they say that when you're young, you're more prone to having a very simplistic concept of good and bad, like of morality. It's good and bad, good or evil. Whereas people are imperfect. They make mistakes. Sometimes they then do something good. Sometimes they then do something bad. It's like I said, a muddied mix of in between, shades of gray.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I suggested Mirrormask is because Mirrormask, not Mirrormax, is because it's sort of an interesting parallel to Labyrinth. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, with Labyrinth, you sort of have the young woman confronting the dark masculine. The animus is what you would say in Jungian terms. Mm-hmm. In the second one, you have this young girl confronting the dark feminine. And the dark feminine is, of course, the Black Queen, or the Queen of Darkness, who's incredibly smothering. And like just sinister, creepy, smothering sort of quality to her. And she won't let her daughter have any sense of free expression. and just chains her up. And what's interesting is that when that particular daughter who got free ends up going into the world through Helena, and I wonder if this isn't just Helena watching herself. She just goes nuts. She goes wild because she finally gets out of that smothering sense of control. But Helena's, when she sees herself like that, she's disgusted. And it's interesting because it's almost like a sense of examining those kind of extreme reactions to, I guess, parental dysfunction. Because your mother is smothering, you become a wild child who does things that are self-damaging. And so she's starting to recognize that.
It's about like toxic femininity.
See, I actually wouldn't say that. I would actually say that what's happening is that through her dark doppelganger, through seeing that other person who isn't her, she's like, that's not me. That isn't me. I'm not that kind of person. I would never do that sort of thing. She's very shocked about what's taking place. It makes her reflect upon who she actually is. And I've actually questioned myself, like, is she not just on the outside of herself looking in? Is that not a possibility? But then you see later on, and at the very end, she meets the doppelganger of Valentine, hinting that he's an actual person that lives in this world. And that's the thing, that's the idea of the duality. Like, every single person who lives in the real world is represented in her world. And the thing about it is it's sort of this weird realization that maybe it's not something that she entirely created on her own, because this is someone she's never actually met before. And she meets for the very first time at the very end of the film. So it's sort of hinting that this actually happened, that this was not her, this was a doppelganger. But you almost have to wonder if the doppelganger was really there for very long, or if the situation with the doppelganger ever actually happened. Because her only view of what happened was through the window. And then she woke up on the ledge. So it's kind of a weird thing, where you're wondering what actually happened in her mind and what really happened in real life. Was she sleepwalking? Because I think when she crosses into the other world, she sort of she leaves her bed, she starts wandering around that apartment building. So you have to wonder, had she been sleepwalking? Had she, walked around and then came back to the ledge and fell asleep? We don't know.
Yeah.
But
one of the things I have a problem with Mirrormask is that I didn't actually find I did watch it a while ago, but I really didn't find a heck of a lot memorable, and I don't remember the plot very well, which is not a good sign. But I remember the cats. I remember Valentine, and I remember that creepy scene where she's getting dressed for her dinner with the Dark Queen, and those creepy animatronic things that came out to dress her. I was like,
and they're singing like, "Why do birds suddenly appear?" You're like, "Oh Jesus!" Like it's like something out of your worst nightmare.
Yeah, it's just horrible. But yeah, I was hoping I would be able to rewatch it for the show, but time didn't really turn out that way. But again, what I've found really interesting is that Labyrinth is really exploration of, and not the dark masculine as outside of the girl, but what's inside her, that desire to project agency outside of herself. And then we have Mirrormask, which is really about an exploration of the dark feminine inside the girl as well, which something different. It's not projecting agency outside of herself, but I'm not quite sure what it is what is the flaw that she has to overcome.
Well, the thing about it is that she really was from the beginning she had actually said, like, I just want to live my life and everything, but in stepping outside of herself, she's able to realize that she is living life already, and that she hasn't been appreciating the life that she already has and the people that are in it. She's acting very much like a spoiled brat and living within her own brain and saying like, oh, I want to be all fucking grown. But the answer is that, the truth of the matter is she's still someplace in between, and that she needs room to grow, but she shouldn't be so pushy about it that she's, rude to the people who go out of their way to take care of her.
But I think the movie, a lot of it was about her confronting her emotions toward her mother, and the fact that they got into a fight at the beginning, and then her mother ended up going to the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she felt bad about it, and she was confronting a lot of this stuff within the movie and confronting herself while looking at herself and that's not what I want to be. I don't want to be dark and weird and kissing boys like that. And
but I mean, if you
it's examining all of that and really just saying, look into a mirror and see yourself, and make yourself what you want to be, and not just, I don't know.
But like
not
I
just
said,
a reflection of what's been done to you, maybe.
Well, there's hints that this is really about her, the place where she's at, that place in between childhood and womanhood, especially as you see she's seeing people kissing at different points throughout the film. Like the early part, she sees people kissing twice, and it seems to really disgust her at first, because it seems to just really gross her out, as something that she just doesn't quite understand. So it's sort of speaking to the fact that she's still very childish, despite the fact that she says that she wants to be a lot more mature and she wants to break away from her mother in some ways, and so much so that she says she wishes she was dead. Because she feels that she's intruding into her life. But that's really the thing, because when you see the White Queen is asleep, and while she's asleep, she has this sort of she's sort of a representation of how she has idealized her in some ways and placed her up on a pedestal, and the dark aspect seems to be, like I said, that representation, all of her fears about what she thinks that her mother really wants to do, that she really wants to keep her a child and restrict her and all of those horrible things that will keep her as a child and never let her be able to grow into a woman.
You know what? I think we've talked this one out.
Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah,
but
I think we have. I think we're rolling on fumes here. So, what do you think, Mike?
We need to talk about the Jim Henson Company's next movie, the adaptation of that kid's horrible, very bad day or whatever. That was actually made by them, and we're not talking about it.
What are we talking about?
I have no knowledge of this issue that you just brought up.
This book here. Let me look it up really quick. The Jim Henson Company did a movie recently. It was based on. Let me see. Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. They made that, apparently, and that movie looked like garbage. And we're not talking about it.
I haven't even seen that movie, so I can't really speak to that.
I haven't even seen a trailer, so I can't.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's garbage.
Okay, Otter Jesus says it's poop. Let's move on.
Well, that mean I'm not going to watch it and make my own.
I was just shocked that they were involved, because it has nothing to do with anything.
Okay, all right. So what about the Labyrinth, the second Labyrinth?
Oh, the second Labyrinth? Well,
yeah, have a few minutes to rant on that, and then let's.
Well, I'm not really going to be all ranty, because I hear that Toby Froud is working on it.
So it hasn't actually been created yet?
No.
No, I'm not talking about the Dark Crystal 2. I'm talking about the Labyrinth 2.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Labyrinth 2. That's that. If I recall, they're actually trying to get Toby Froud in on that.
Trying to do that and the Dark Crystal sequels for a long time, and they just keep falling apart.
Yeah, I know, but I think having him on the team would actually be beneficial. I don't fucking know.
The Dark Crystal and the Labyrinth are both good examples of how effortless it can seem to create a whole brand new, original world. And this is one thing that for some reason Hollywood is lacking, despite getting better and better special effects capabilities. All they're doing now is sequels and adaptations. And that kind of bullshit. Just make something new, for fuck's sake.
Avatar was new. Avatar was sort of.
Oh, fuck you! You're not going to talk about Avatar. That's
eventually we will have to.
Okay, they were talking about doing this in Labyrinth. And it eventually kind of morphed into Mirrormask.
Well, we were always going to talk about Mirrormask, so, you know...
Well, Mirrormask was supposed to be them trying to replicate the success of the two franchises, and, I mean, I kind of like the look of it, and there's certainly something interesting about Mirrormask, but it's really, what's the word I'm looking for?
It doesn't have enough of a frickin' plot.
It's way too fucking bizarre. I think they got so wrapped up in trying to make it look different and in trying to take you to this other world and aesthetics.
Originally, the artist who did the designs for the first two movies was supposed to do it, but then they're like, no, since the director of Mirrormask is an artist, let's just let him do it. And so he did, and that's why the cats had human faces.
Well, I mean, it was incredibly bizarre in many places, and you know what? I definitely appreciate.
I just like that train of logic. I
definitely appreciate it. I definitely appreciate the weirdness of it, and I definitely saw the surrealist painting influences and all the other stuff, and I appreciated it. Well,
David Lynch's style is he cuts things up and puts them together, and he'll basically make like an actual thing out of like random things he puts together, take a picture of it, and that's it.
One of the problems, I don't know, one of the main problems for me was just how visually dark it was. It was very difficult at times to even tell what the fuck was going on. And that was really frustrating for me, especially the first time I tried to watch this film back when I was in college. Because I said, okay, this movie looks really artsy and stuff, but then it was just so dark I fell asleep. Because it was so, I might as well just had the computer screen off. It was so...
A lot of that has to do with the fact that the budget was so small and they were basically making everything on the computer.
That's bullshit.
That's technically...
Rachel declares that bullshit.
Not a good reason.
I'm calling that bullshit because there are many cheap films that still have proper lighting where even when it's dark you can tell what the hell's going on. Yes.
Okay, maybe that's why I can't remember a damn thing about that movie, because it's basically like watching a black screen.
No, that would be Alien versus Predator.
It's different shades of black going on. Like,
that movie was so dark.
The only time when you can actually see everything is that one time when you're at like the White Queen's palace and everything's all light and stuff like that, and you can see everything. The rest of it is just really, really grainy and dark. Immediately dark.
All right.
I am forgiving of like things like that when it comes to really cheap indie films, basically. But some people
it wasn't a cheap indie film, though.
It was $4 million. That's really, really cheap, especially for a movie that's pretty much all CGI.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying if it's all CGI in the background, there's no reason for it to be that dark.
Okay, all right. Well, this argument can go on forever, I sense.
And it will. This will never end.
Yeah, you'll never agree on how dark Mirrormask had.
Arguments go on forever and ever and ever.
Okay, you can never agree on how dark Mirrormask should rightfully be. Should rightfully have allowed itself to become. In dark in terms of aesthetic.
Lack of lighting. No, I'm talking about lack of lighting.
All right, but I hear weird sounds, so let's. I think we're good.
It only sounds weird to you, fat one.
Okay. All right.
Nobody likes you. You haven't got any friends.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now, once we get into like the basically the bottom of the ditch, which is the nerd fighting over the lightness or darkness of indie film.
You do realize that we just slipped into Gollum, and you didn't even mention that. There's like we've got two Gollum voices going back and forth.
I know, and you know what?
We don't know what you're talking about. It's all
Yes,
Mask.
I'm just not gonna notice.
I am the one in charge of the rape train. Rape train for everyone.
I don't think that's the Gollum voice. That's a little bit too light and cheerful.
Well, no, it's Smeagol and Gollum.
It's
Oh,
the same
right
as the
now,
Hannah
Otter is
voice,
Smeagol.
actually. If you do the Hannah voice and take it down, it becomes Smeagol. It's that same bit at the back of your throat that you sort of cut off. I don't know what it is. Oh.
I've heard that I sound like Meatwad.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's Meatwad, the same voice.
sound
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Meatwad. You do. That's a
That's
very
what
good
I'm
Meatwad.
trying that.
Okay, you know what? Nothing productive is being done.
Yes,
Nothing.
it's all productive. The rape
It's
train never
Well, like I said, like we could talk about how Labyrinth is rape. Just
We
very
could talk
rapey.
about, even though probably none of us have read it, we could talk about the Jim Henson graphic novel that was released after he died.
No, fuck you. We are not talking about the Labyrinth, Return to Labyrinth novel.
No, the
Fuck
one that he
you.
actually worked on.
Oh,
It was like
oh,
it was a project that he was going to work on, and then it was
we're
ended.
not talking about the. Oh, okay. Well, we're not
I
talking
have
about the
not
graphic
seen
novel.
that. I've not
We're
seen
not
that.
We
We're
could
not
talk
talking
about
about the graphic novel. We are not
Can we
talking about
not
Return
talk
to
about what
Labyrinth.
we're not talking about? And
Let's talk about things that aren't real.
okay. That's a wide net. Let's talk about things that can be spoken of with English.
No. Never.
All right, Brian.
English is for shitlords. Shut up.
Okay, not Brian. I'm going to beseech you that I think
Maybe we need to talk about.
sort of crash here. So perhaps we should talk about ending.
Talk about Big Bird and how's the raping.
No,
Well,
okay.
we're for like an
Then
hour
we're just
and a
being totally
quarter.
freaking random. Time to go. Time to go.
I love this episode. I love this episode so much.
If you'd like to show, Allison, now's the time to show. I'm not going to stop you.
No, I don't feel like.
Do donate to our thing, so that for the calendar.
All right, I'll shill properly.
Shill for that shit. That's awesome.
Okay, all right, I'll shill. Well, the patron is also awesome.
Yeah. You shill for all the awesome things, or some of the
Okay.
awesome things. Go.
I will shill for some of the awesome things so as not to confuse people. All right, so we are we are actually going to a convention. It's one of the largest fan conventions in Canada. It's the Calgary Comics and Entertainment Expo, and we are going there to essentially with the message that geek people and geek culture and geek activities should be left the fuck alone, and just to go their own way. And if you're interested in helping us get there, we have a fundraiser. You can find it at www.feedthebadger.com. Right now, we're almost to getting Hannah there, and then after Hannah, we'll be working on the others. So if you want us to get there, you want to take part vicariously in our various shenanigans in our I guess our habitat, our native habitat, which would be geekery.
Well, speak for yourself.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right, Rachel. You're coming out as a non-geek, right? Okay, whatever.
No. I'm saying I'm not from Canada.
No, but it's the natural habitat of geeking, of being
Oh,
geeky.
okay. Oh, you mean the convention?
Yes. I'm not going to throw you out in the Canadian wilds and expect you to survive.
I want to see that reality show.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to go drill a hole in a maple tree and just suckle.
There are no maples in that part of Canada. Or not.
Nope.
Then I'm gonna
You'd be
starve.
walking a while. You'd have to be walking east.
I'm gonna starve if I can't
Yes.
suck.
Yeah. Well, you could try pine sap, or I think pine sap might be edible. But you could also try just going and getting a coffee and a donut at Tim Hortons.
Maybe I could. Wow. I don't know. Maybe I'd rather suck out the sap out of the tree instead.
All right. Now
This is the best
you're
show
just being
ever.
pointlessly mean. Okay, so anyway, if you want to see us go into the nerd environment and protect it from people who want to censor it, and as we all are aware that people are actually going in there and telling us nerds how we should live and comport ourselves and what we should look at, and outside of things that are actually illegal. We don't actually advocate things that are illegal, like throwing people into the Canadian wilds with no clothing
What? I'm gonna
nothing
be
except
naked out there?
except a freaking maple tree drill so they can suck sap. Okay, anyway, so it's feedthebadger.com. Please do consider donating so we can get us all there and make a proper show of force.
And let them know that they have no power over us.
Yes, they have no power over us. All right.
Who's runners?
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good night.
night, tree sucker.